What I think you'll find in this exhibition is photography that shows us where this art form is going in Japan in the future. We're going to start with three artists who use photography to challenge our assumptions about individual identity. In this case, this is Yayoi Kusama. She's one of the best-known Japanese female artists of the 20th century, also lives in New York. The next image that you'll see is Jasper Johns, of course a very well-known American artist. And third in the sequence, this is Takashi Murakami, sort of king of Japanese pop and manga today. Yoko Mizo Shizuka, like our previous artist, works abroad. She's been in London for many years. And this series is entitled Stranger. So each work in the series has simply a different number after it. And her working technique here was to send a letter to the resident of an apartment or home and say, I'd like to take your picture on such and such an evening in a 10-minute window. If this is agreeable to you, please turn the lights on and have the curtains open. This artist is Takano Ryudai, one of the most popular photographers working in Japan today. His subject is invariably a young man or the male body. But if we look at the photographs in this series, we found in the museum, and I think you'll find as a viewer, that it's not always easy to recognize the gender of his subjects. He might show them from the front, he might show them from the back, but through the use of makeup or wigs or costume, these figures often have ambiguous identity. Cross-dressing or ambiguous gender identity is not all that unusual in Japanese culture as a performance. If we think about actors in female costume, male actors in female costume on the kabuki stage, or even in pop culture. But in everyday life, it's not something that people have always been comfortable with. I think what Takano is doing here is, again, using photography to question the visual markers of gender identity as well as other kinds of personal identity. This artist is Hishikari Shunsaku. You'll see in the group portraits in this section that what he does is he uses the photograph as his basis, and then he builds a collage over that surface with scraps of newspaper, which he then often dyes or paints to get the neutral colors that he wants. So looking at this first very large image here, we have boys clearly in some sort of a military school. Here is their teacher, and they're wearing uniforms. And although there's some sense of light and dark and of proportions, of course all the faces have been erased, we might say. I think that his is perhaps the darkest vision of the artist in the exhibition, suggesting that this is what group society or society that has been through war or contemporary commercial society does to us. In the category of delightful, I would place Sawada Tomoko and this artist, Okada Hiroko. Her project here is entitled The Male Birthing Project, and it's a feminist, hilarious rebuff of a Japanese government official who suggested that the problem to Japan's falling birth rate was to stop having women go to college. If they didn't go to college and didn't get an education and didn't get jobs, they could stay home and have babies. Well, a lot of women in Japan were pretty angry at that remark, but this artist, this photographer, comes back with this suggestion: why not have men give birth to children? And so we have single photographs, we have an anatomic model, and these hilariously funny videos of a young man who won the lottery, $3 million, and decided to do that to have himself impregnated. So here, in one of these pictures, she finds these skinny, sort of narrow-chested, narrow-shouldered, but nevertheless mustachioed, so we know their gender, young men in a fairly sort of torn-down medical clinic. You can see the tears in the costumes, who are obviously just delighted. They're just thrilled to be what looks like almost 10 months pregnant. And we find that women who come through this audience invariably break up in laughter. Middle-aged men are a little bit more confused about how to respond to these images. But I think that what we can see here is tremendous humor and goodwill on the part of this feminist photographer.